guys, today I wanted to talk about autistic meltdowns and kind of the different uncommon ways that aren't really talked about how they can present, what they can look like, and all of that. I feel like before we dive into this, it's very important to kind of have a baseline definition of like meltdown, right? So I will read that right now. What is a meltdown? A meltdown is an intense response to an overwhelming situation. It happens when someone becomes completely overwhelmed by their current situation and temporarily loses control of their behavior. This loss of control can present as verbally, shouting, screaming, crying, or physically, like kicking, lashing out, biting, or in both ways. A meltdown is not the same as a temper tantrum. It is not bad behavior. When a person is completely overwhelmed and their condition means it is difficult to express that in another way, it is understandable that the result is a meltdown. It is important to note that an autism meltdown is not a deliberate behavior, but rather a response to stress and overload. So before I actually read off the signs that someone is having a meltdown or they're about to have a meltdown, I think it's important to talk about the definition itself that I just read off. It's actually really uncommon for everyone to completely lose control during meltdown. At least for lower support needs autistics, level 1 autistics, whatever you personally want to call it. It is completely normal if you do have some type of control during your meltdown. You don't completely just stop being able to control yourself. You might be able to suppress it or mask a little until you get to a safer place to kind of let it come out. Like for me, there's been personal times where I just got picked up by my parents and like I feel it coming on, and like I do struggle a little to like make sure my tone is like not angry and like I don't like break up my words and stuff, but I don't just completely start screaming and crying and stuff. I can kind of hold it back a little. So now I will read off the signs that someone is having a meltdown, and I do apologize in advance because I tried to find some articles that just gave a variety, but a lot of them were like aimed towards children and it just didn't give out the full experience. Okay, now I will. An autism meltdown can look different for each person, but common signs include crying or screaming, flapping or pacing, aggressive or self-injurious behavior, withdrawing or shutting down, difficulty communicating emotions, hyperventilating or breathing rapidly, clenching fists or grinding teeth, rocking back and forth or hitting oneself, running away or hiding, and engaging in repetitive behaviors such as spinning or tapping. As the article said, like autistic meltdowns look different in every single person, and these traits aren't gonna apply to every single person, right? Because sometimes a meltdown could just be you crying and curled up in a ball. For others, it could be them hyperventilating or like stomping around the house and throwing stuff around. Like there's just so many different ways that it can present. But for me personally, my meltdowns, I don't have them publicly. I usually have them in private. Like there are times where I do feel it like coming out in public, but I'm just like quiet and suppressing it until I get in my room by myself. But when I do eventually get in my room, I usually like start sobbing and like sobbing uncontrollably, and like I can't really like think. I feel like my thoughts are kind of on a loop to whatever triggered my meltdown. Oh, and I think another important thing to say is that the trigger of a meltdown doesn't have to be very big at all, because usually meltdowns occur from like a buildup of like a ton of things, and then there's just like that seemingly small thing that just knocks it all down and just sends you into it. Back to what it looks like for me, usually my thoughts are on a loop about whatever triggered that meltdown. Like one time I was like really stressed out, like over time really stressed out, and the one thing that was keeping me sane was that my sister was gonna cook this specific meal for me. It was chicken and dumpling, and she didn't end up cooking it because my brother didn't properly like cut up all the vegetables and stuff. So when I found out I wasn't gonna eat that thing, that was the thing that sent me over the edge. For this specific experience, I got picked up after school and my mom said that we had to go run errands, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, you're gonna go home, she's gonna pick you up and go home. She changed a small thing and that sent me over the edge, so my thoughts was playing like, oh, I wanted to go home, I wanted to go home. And usually I also have speech loss. I usually have a verbal shutdown when I'm having a meltdown. That means I lose my words or have limited speech. So basically I was just repeating like, I wanted to go home, I wanted to go home, I wanted to go home. I'm rocking back and forth, and for me, my meltdowns are not violent to other people at all. Like, I am really bad with harmful stems because they're regulating to me and they just make me feel better when I have such overwhelming emotions. And that's the thing about meltdowns. I feel like you just can't describe how intense they are to other people if they've never had one, because it literally just feels like my whole body is just filled with these really intense negative emotions, and like they're almost trapped under my skin and I just can't get them out. And doing those harmful stems, like I'm really bad at scratching. I have the urge to like hit my head, and also myself. And obviously it is not good to have those harmful stems, right? But it's also okay if you end up doing them during meltdown, because sometimes like you just really can't control yourself and that's the only thing that can regulate yourself. And for me, it's a really touchy topic because often during these meltdowns I have the thought of like, oh my god, what is wrong with me? Am I crazy? Like, I really have to be doing harmful stems that make me feel better, like that there's something wrong with me for harmful stems to kind of ease it. And that's not me encouraging people to do them. If there is a better alternative that is reasonable that you can do, but it's for me to say that you're valid if you do them, and it's okay. You're not messed up, you're not crazy, you're not any of those things. Because I've been there and I definitely felt like that. I was like, oh my god, normal people don't feel like they have to do harmful stems and ever to make them feel better. Other than that, I rock back and forth, like I might flap my hands. I have this bell on me because it makes noise and it kind of helps me during those times. I'm also really prone to sensory sensitivity during them. Like there are times where like I don't know, I just become so hypersensitive that sometimes I have to change clothes, or like I violently like just take them off because they're so like annoying to me. Like even my hair, like sometimes I just want to rip my braids out just because like just feeling them on like my skin or something is too overstimulating, and it's just adding to all of the overwhelm. Okay, with that out of the way, I want to talk about the 3 stages of meltdown. There's rumble, meltdown, and recovery. So the rumble stage is kind of where the signs kind of start to peak out, and you might notice yourself being more agitated, being more sensitive. It's like basically before you have the meltdown. So I would like to read off some signs. An autism meltdown can be triggered by various factors, and it's important to recognize the signs that someone may be on the verge of a meltdown. Some common signs to look out for include increased anxiety, such as fidgeting or pacing, heightened sensitivity to sensory input, such as covering their ears and squinting, difficulty communicating or expressing themselves clearly, becoming easily frustrated or agitated, withdrawing from social interactions or activities they normally enjoy, or engaging in repetitive behaviors more frequently than usual. And in my opinion, I think this is a pretty accurate description. But here are some examples, like the becoming more easily frustrated or agitated slash heightened sensitivity. There's times where like I get hyper focused and my friend might tap me and I'm not prepared for the stimuli, so I'm just like, what? And I kind of get like unreasonably upset with them before I have a meltdown. Like, I might be prone to kind of like not interacting with the conversation just because like I don't have the mental energy or tolerance to deal with it. Like, I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like masking. I don't feel like having to kind of do a take and give with a conversation right now. And sometimes things just seem louder. Like, I'm more inclined to get overstimulated by like the layered noises. My sensitivity, at least like with my ears, is not loud noises. It's more of like small noises, small repetitive ones, or layered sounds. Like, I ride a bus home, and when I'm already agitated, I can't deal with like the amount of voices that there are, or I can't deal with like the little like TikTok sounds. But I do have to say that like if you find yourself in this phase, there is a way to prevent it. Like, it's not just like no hope. Like, you can try to get away from triggers, or like use accommodation, use like headphones, and try stuff like that. Distracting yourself, stimming, those things are possible to kind of ease it or prevent it, but it is okay if those things don't end up working and you do move on to the meltdown stage. I feel like the meltdown stage is pretty self-explanatory. Like, I kind of did talk about that in the earlier parts of the video, so I'm just going to talk about recovery. So I do feel like after you've gone through the actual meltdown, there is that recovery phase where it's a little difficult to explain, but like you're not like back to normal, but you're also not like completely stressed out. Like, for me, my recovery phase, I usually shut down like immediately, which I will talk about shutdowns in a different video. But I just lie there, and like I kind of feel like a zombie because I don't really feel anything, and I don't really have any thoughts. Like, I just don't move, and I'm just in my bed. But yeah, that stressor is removed, and things still might be overstimulating, or like you might still struggle, and you might not be able to 100% process things yet. For some people, they're not able to talk or communicate clearly, or they might only be able to respond to yes or no questions, or not like reply to like complicated things. For me, I say that's partially the case because like, yeah, right after the meltdown and I'm in recovery, I don't talk at all. But after I get through that shutdown and I need to sleep, because I have to sleep after meltdowns, like it just takes so much energy out of my body. So after I have that shutdown and I sleep, I feel perfectly fine to talk again. But for some people, like they might still struggle with speech afterwards. It can be like days or something to recover because it's really hard on your body. And I think that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that one of you guys feels a little more valid, because that's my goal in each video. I am open to questions, and I hope I have answers if you do ask questions, and bye!